Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blank and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC TV show podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network Group. I'm your host, Priscilla Welch. Welcome to a new week. Happy Sunday, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and season greetings. All right, let me stop playing with y'all. Okay, so I would like to start today's episode with the second Wonder Woman movie finally on its way. Yes, to the theaters and HBO Max. But here's the trick. It may not be for free if you already have HBO Max, unfortunately, and here is why. So there's a lot of mixed reviews going on with this current article. So as I stated, it's up to, of course, the viewers and the audiences that already have HBO Max if you either want to watch it on HBO Max or go to the theaters. And right now, Wonder Woman is set to come out on December 25th. So there is an article here, and it was sent out by Mitchell Clark. And the title is, Hope You Weren't Planning to Watch Wonder Woman 1984 with an HBO Max free trial. So it may be time to actually pour this out, okay? And as the article says, in theaters, but you should probably stay at home. While it can't compete with free, the $14.99 you'll not have to pay to see the movie still compares favorably to the price of a theater ticket. And it's a month of entertainment as opposed to 2-ish hours. So they're saying that even though the price is $14.99 a month for HBO Max, they are saying, comparing to the price that you will have to pay at a movie theater, it's reasonable because once you have HBO Max, at least you have like other media content that you can watch. Personally, in my opinion, now, I don't know about you all, but for me, if I wanted to go see a movie in my area or close to my area, it would be like $9.99. But of course, if you wanted to get snacks, if you wanted to get food, that adds on to the cost, for those couple hours that you're driving there to the movie theaters and then going back home. However, though, in that time frame, I just feel like it makes more sense to me because I would get that full experience. Before the pandemic even occurred, I was always someone that would go straight to the movies and watch the movie first. But it depends on what movie it is. For Wonder Woman 1984, I do strongly believe that I would like to see it in the theaters. But even though during the pandemic, now, of course, some of you may be like scared because of everything going on, but you're going to be around people probably won't wear masks. Yes. But did you know at the Music Cinemark, now, if you go, if you're going towards Scranton, for those of you who actually know what I'm talking about right now in Scranton, PA, you can actually go ahead and kind of rent out the theater room for a certain price. Say if it was just you and your family, of course, that you lived with because of CDC guidelines, or, people that that would definitely keep the distance, definitely keep their mask on to actually go ahead and watch the movie, then that's another alternative, that's another option. But, of course, if it's out of your price range, it's something you can't afford, then it wouldn't make sense to do it, right? So anyway, it's still another option to still watch it on HBO Max, and I love that they did that. And honestly, these people that put themselves into Wonder Woman, we've been waiting a long time. For anyone that's a fan of DC Comics, anyone that's a fan of the first Wonder Woman movie, we know the action, the acting, and just the fact that we finally were getting a successful, solo woman empowerment, superhero movie, just someone by themselves. Of course, we still had a lot of the co-stars that were literally men, in the movie that was helping her fight and win the war. But now in this one, it's kind of a different timeline. It's the 1980s, right? And of course, one of the main villains in this particular movie is Cheetah, just like how it is in the comics, if you know what I'm talking about. So I just strongly believe like it's going to be amazing, and they really are making double the money, because nowadays it's either you would pick whether, like, of course, like when the movie theaters were shut down, you would either pick to go to the movie theaters or you would pick to just watch it at home. But they're actually giving you options where you can watch it in the movie theaters as well as watch it at home. And I think that's a blessing in disguise. This article came out again December 4th, and it's not that long ago. So honestly, they're saying that now it's not an option anymore if you wanted to use the free trial to watch Wonder Woman 1984. So the question is, obviously, is it worth paying for a month of HBO Max, right? So as I stated, if you didn't have HBO Max before, and maybe if you don't watch any of the content on there, you probably would not agree with it. However, if you always wanted to get HBO Max, you would be willing to want to put out that money and actually watch Wonder Woman. And then, of course, once you watched it, over and over again, because the movie, of course, is going to be awesome. Maybe not. We'll see. But so far, it's been getting good reviews, okay? And again, there's other media and other content that you can actually watch. So you'll just have to decide on your own with your family. So again, a little bit about the movie. Okay, so now let's get down a little bit serious. So as I stated before, it is the sequel to 2017's Wonder Woman. And it is also the 9th installment in the DC Extended Universe. Okay, a lot of you probably didn't know that. So the film was actually directed by Patty Jenkins. Again, I love this woman empowerment. And it's actually from a script she wrote with Geoff Johns and David Callahan, and a story by Johns and Jenkins. So, as of course, Wonder Woman is played by Gal Gadot as Diana, and of course also Wonder Woman. And alongside she has Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, Pedro Pascal, Robin Wright, and Connie Nielsen. And 1984 is actually during the Cold War. So if you know your history, well, think about it that way. And the film, again, will follow. She faces off also against Maxwell Lord and, as I stated earlier, Cheetah. Cheetah is actually a really cool, villain. I do know for a time she also was part of Suicide Squad with Harley Quinn. So it would be interesting to see the live action version to her, because usually, again, you only see her in the comics, or maybe sometimes barely in some of the cartoon movies, like for Batman or anything like DC related. And of course, you would know that if you keep up with DC Comics. But it was produced by Charles Roven, Deborah Snyder, Zack Snyder, Patty Jenkins, Gal Gadot. Ooh, Gal Gadot also produced it. Awesome. And Stephen Jones, okay? The screenplay is by Patty Jenkins, Geoff Johns, and David Callahan. And we already talked about what the story is going to be. The music, cinematography, this is interesting, is by Matthew Jensen. And the running time for the entire movie is 151 minutes. The release date in the UK, so if you're out there in the UK, is actually December 16th. So you guys actually out there in Europe, you get to watch it a week before us here in the United States. Again, it comes out on Christmas Day. And the budget for this movie was $200 million. So of course, they're probably going to make double that profit, especially because of the streaming. A lot of people these days are home, right? And streaming is where the money is at right now. Come on, guys. Oh my gosh, I love it. And on top of that, they're in the movie theaters. So for those of you who are brave and don't mind going to movie theaters, well, here's your chance, okay? So again, I think this is going to be a fantastic movie because of the action. We get to see, what it's like for Wonder Woman in the 1980s, what it's like when she lost Steve, the character of who plays her lover, basically. And it was very surprising because the trailer happened a few times this year. And of course, everyone was surprised the fact that Steve kind of came back. So everyone's trying to figure out how is it that he's alive, And of course, in the trailer, as they described, she's trying to teach him what, parachute pants are. She's trying to teach him what a fanny pack is. Just the entire 1980s timeline and what it is to live in that time, in that era. Everything is different. The technology, how you fly a plane is different. So of course he wasn't really understanding it right away, but that was the cool thing about it. They were kind of rekindling and getting to know each other in a different era and different timeline. I love that. It's stories of star-crossed lovers, right? But and then again too, with Cheetah coming into the picture now, it was kind of like, if you actually watch the show and listen to some of the quotes that she was talking about, like how she wants to be more women empowerment, you see a different perspective of someone that doesn't want to be the hero, that doesn't think that people deserve her, like the way she's intellectual, the way that she's done things. She's always been invisible. She's always been looked down upon. Whereas Diana comes in, and Diana's just like beautiful. Everyone loves her. Everyone thinks she's smart. Everyone thinks she's great. And for someone like Cheetah, she didn't get that at all in her life. And that's what gets her upset. What I like about the movie is, even on the outside, and you would think that people, you know, the way they're just generally nice, right? But at the same time, they always get stepped on, right? You don't look at them twice. You maybe look at them once and like, oh, well, she's okay, right? She's okay. But then you don't give people a chance either. And I think that's where Cheetah's coming from, and I can understand her character a lot, actually, and I really, really love that. So I'm actually rooting for her. Now, of course, now we see some badass scenes where, like, Wonder Woman is literally, you know, getting it in with her, but then Cheetah's really holding her ground as well. Like, there was a scene where it looked like they were kind of like in the White House, and or, you know, one of like those government buildings, and I thought that was really cool. And then there was another scene, of course, where Wonder Woman has like those big like golden wings, and we're just like, oh, she about to get it. Looking like a goddess, Gal Gadot. And you know what? With this movie coming out the second time, like, this just shows too, like, how amazing has been. Like, the first time I fell in love with this actress, honestly, was literally when we were all watching the Fast and Furious movies, and he was actually dating one of the characters in the film, if you ever watch any of the Fast and Furious. But it's interesting because she's literally on a whole nother level, like, you know, doing DC, working with Warner Brothers, and just being a symbol. Because in her country, you know, they are actually against what she's doing. I don't know if a lot of you actually know that, but she's actually from Israel, Israelite actress. And when I remember 3 years ago in 2017, when the first Wonder Woman came out, they didn't appreciate the way she looked in the movie. They didn't appreciate the fact that the way she was dressed as Wonder Woman, owning her sexuality, her preferences. And I think overall it's because there's different, obviously, political and the way things that the government is run compared, obviously, to our country. America, the way our media is, we really put ourselves out there compared to other countries who are more secluded. They are more held back a little bit when it comes to revealing yourself in certain ways, right? More conservative, that's the word, more conservative. So for them to see her becoming a celebrity in the UK, in the United States, and then it's kind of like, you know, that thing comes back to them when she's like, okay, well, what's your background? You know, where are you from? Where's your family from? You know, where do you go home to? Right? And she's representing her country, right? Because she's not white. She's not black. She's from Israel. So I just love everything that she's doing. And again, if you love DC Comics, well, then this is definitely a movie that you would want to see. And in my opinion, when it comes to the Wonder Woman movies, it actually put, besides Superman, of course, besides like the Man of Steel movies that they actually like remade and everything, because, you know, Superman movies have been out for many years, especially with Batman movies. So I just feel like if it wasn't even for the Batman movies, like the Dark Knight trilogy, if it wasn't for the certain Superman movies that came out over the years, and then now we have Wonder Woman, DC will kind of be forgotten. Because DC, in my opinion, I always tell this to people whenever I have like a conversation between DC Comics versus Marvel Comics. Marvel dominates in movies. There's no question about it. I mean, have you not seen Endgame? Have you not? And then the last 10 years of all the Marvel movies that came out, it was just numbers after numbers after numbers. It was just historic. It was just groundbreaking. It was just, they continued and hitting all these high budgets that literally nobody was watching any other movie but Marvel movies. So when it comes to TV shows now, Warner Brothers, DC Comics, awesome job. The Flash, The Arrow, DC Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl. They just go on and on and on. And of course, now we have new updated ones, right? We have the Swamp Thing. We have Stargirl. So that's something you have to think about. DC, TV shows, Marvel, movies. Period. So anyway, coming up after the break, I want to get into another show that you can actually stream right now on Netflix, okay? And it's about a very talented pop star that unfortunately died at 23. And if this sounds familiar to you, yes, I am talking about Selena. And for those of you who are Generation Z, if you do not know who Selena is by now, you better get it together and start listening to some music, okay? Some real music. So coming up after the break, we're going to talk about Selena. Don't go anywhere.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Welcome back from the break, everyone. If you're now tuning in, we just finished discussing the lovely Wonder Woman 1984 that will be coming out December 25th to HBO Max as well as your local movie theaters. So go ahead and watch that. Again, HBO Max right now did just change some rules, so you would have to be paying the $14.99. Apparently, they do not have that free trial for that particular movie as of right now. Okay, so coming up next, as I stated before the commercial, we're actually talking about now this Selena series, okay, which is on Netflix. It came out December 4th, and right now there's about 9 episodes for the first season. First of all, I haven't watched it yet. I plan to literally right after I'm done talking to you guys, but I am excited. First of all, when the movie first came out back in the late 90s, Jennifer Lopez, as we all know, played the wonderful Selena and did a phenomenal job. And it really put her career out there when it came to singing and dancing, just everything else she does as a star to this day, right? And J-Lo is amazing. Can't front about that. But now they're coming into a series which actually Selena's family and her husband, for example, are actually supporting this show. And to me, that actually says a lot, because who better to know Selena, the amazing pop star, than them, right? Her own flesh and blood, her own husband. And I feel like they didn't mind the movie back in the day, but I think they didn't want to focus too much on the death of Selena. They wanted to focus on, you know, how she really lived her life and what made her and the family, you know, make all those sacrifices, because it was the entire family that were pretty much talented. I mean, they were an entire band together. If you really listen to the music, you can hear the backups of like the other family members and different percussions and the different music that they were playing, you know. So in regards to the series, I feel like it's something specifically, especially if you've never heard of Selena, that's like not hearing about Tupac, not hearing about Biggie Smalls, not hearing about Aaliyah, Left Eye, Lisa Lopez, okay? Those are stars that unfortunately their life got cut short at such a young age. I mean, pretty much in their 20s, right? And Selena, of course, makes that list. And this is somebody that, you know, is literally the same age as I am right now, okay? Of course, she's not that age anymore. She died many years ago. But just being this age, like, I feel like I'm luckier, because if I make it to 24, well, that's a blessing, right? Making it to another year in general will be a blessing. So Selena is an American biographical limited run series. That is the full definition for it. It was actually directed by Hiromi Kamada, and it tells the story of a Tejano singer, Selena, and how she basically, like I said, rises to fame and makes the sacrifices, you know, with her family along the way. And she got married at a pretty, you know, young age, but I'll get more into the husband later, because there was actually an interview that he did recently that, you know, what his reaction was to the Netflix series, okay? And it was created by Moses Zamora, and it's starring Christian Serratos. So Christian Serratos is actually from The Walking Dead. And then we have Gabriel Chavarria, Ricardo Chavarria, and Noemi Gonzalez. And we have Saidi Lopez. And as I stated, it's a season 1 right now. It's about 9 episodes. The cinematography is by Shai Chavez. And the distributor is Netflix. So basically the synopsis, again, is her rise to fame and how much her family loved the music. And I think that's what they've been waiting for years, especially, after she died in such a very weird way, because it was very unexpected from the person that did kill her, as we all know. So I think it's educational. I think it literally speaks on the type of music that her and the family does, because a lot of people don't really listen to that type of music now. I don't see even artists nowadays that actually do that type of music. Maybe they do, maybe they're underground artists, but to actually, like, say, for example, get nominated for the Grammys or, just for certain things. So I think it's an educational thing as well, because of their culture and just in general of, like, what they did and what really made Selena Selena. That's the whole point. And I will also get into, like, this other article in a little bit that I saw when I did my research about this series, is that they feel like this actress doesn't really put more oomph into what Selena really was. But I feel like, in my opinion, though, like I said, I still haven't watched the show yet. Her family will be the one, and especially her husband, that would really know the star and would know how the star would feel, after so many years later, to see a series like this come out about her and what she did for the world and how she inspired and how she educated and how she dabbled in fashion even as well. I mean, her amazing outfits that she used to wear when she was dancing on stage, but her and her family, the band, was beautiful. So I really wish, unfortunately, like, she died so young, because she has so much more to do, and it just sucks, because when someone's life is taken so short and they still have a lot to achieve in their life and they never even got to accomplish that far, it's really frustrating, I think, and it's really sad. So the first thing, like I said, I want to talk about is the husband's comments on what he thinks about the series. It wasn't just the husband, it was actually her sister as well, Suzette. Okay, so this is actually an article on people.com, and it is literally, like I said, their reaction to the Netflix series, because it's only part 1. So even though it's a limited series, it looks like they're going to continue with at least leading up to maybe until she dies. But I think they're trying to avoid that altogether, because we've already seen that in a film. And this was released December 5th at 6 p.m. by Georgia Slater. And I quote, "Members of Selena family are sharing their support for Netflix's new Selena TV series following the Friday release of Selena, the series which follows the Mexican-American pop star incredible rise to fame and tragic death. Selena's sister Suzette and husband Chris Perez shared their reactions to the series on social media. Perez, who wed Selena in 1992 and was the former lead guitarist of the band Selena, shared his thoughts on the show in a lengthy post on Instagram. And I quote again, he says, "All right, so here is my take on this." He began his caption alongside a cover photo of the series. "I loved her music even before I joined the band. I was intrigued by the fact that her brother had his name on everything as producer. Keyboard player Ricky Vela was my hero as far as musicianship goes. Her dad ran some amazing sound when I went to see them at an event in San Antonio. I learned so much by taking on their guitar player Raja Garcia's parts and doing my best to stretch it even further. They had a girl drummer that laid it down. Suzette really is a badass." So he's talking about the sisters, Selena's sister. "Joe and Pete brought the extra and added a whole other dimension. Plus, Pete wrote amazing lyrics and they sounded heavy." So Perez, he is now 51 years old. Selena's husband, who was played by Jesse Posey in the series, added that he will, and I quote again, "forever respect the band and the people involved in it. I hope you guys enjoy the series," he concluded. And now says Suzette goes on Instagram and she puts the post as well. So in her photo, the Selena series is seen as the #1 show trending in the US. Guys, oh my gosh, waking up and seeing this is insane and beautiful. Suzette is also now 53. And then she put, thank you for this love. You always you always have given for our family. And the former drummer also thanked Netflix and Selena's fans on her Instagram story for embracing this amazing story that we were able to tell. So as I stated before, guys, like, the family is up for it. So I feel like this is something that definitely we need to pay attention to this year, especially ending the year 2020. I mean, it's been a lot of heavy things. And the fact that we're, congratulating and recommending an icon, I think that's truly beautiful. Before she became the queen of Tejano music, Selena was a young girl from Texas with big dreams and an even bigger voice. The two-part coming-of-age drama Selena, the series, explores the once-in-a-generation performer's journey as a young artist, from singing small gigs in Corpus Christi with her family to becoming one of the most successful Latin artists of all time, and the years of grit and sacrifice that this family navigated together before Selena's meteoric rise to fame. Beautiful. I love it. So yeah, we definitely have to watch that. And I do have some more comments. So there is another article, as I stated earlier, that people think that there wasn't much Selena, not enough oomph into this show. And in Spanish, it's called Tejano Music. So this article is called Netflix's Selena Doesn't Have a Lot of Selena. So it is written by Joshua Rivera, and it came out December 5th at 10 a.m. And the new series fails to live up to the classic film and the real-life woman. Those are his words. So he's basically saying that, of course, there hasn't been many musicians, of course, like Selena, that actually made it really big in this type of music and in this Latin industry. And her life was cut short, literally spring of 1995, just before her 24th birthday. And of course, we all know of the 1997 film, like I mentioned before, that Jennifer Lopez played Selena. But, however, she apparently was a very complex person, had an interior life beyond her star persona, and a tragic death. She's a person whose life is worth diving deeper into beyond the constraint of a 2-hour Hollywood picture, which is why it makes sense for us to watch the series right now on Netflix. So he goes on to say, after moving swiftly through her childhood with a premiere showing young Selena discovering music and her father Abraham's early attempts at getting his other children to form a band around her incredible talent, the Netflix series settles into her teen years when her dream starts to become a reality. As a teenager, Selena's career begins in earnest with her father managing the band she settled into with her siblings. The series shows her navigating the difficulties of poverty and playing Tejano music while dealing with racism from Americans and skepticism from Mexicans. Selena, the series, treads familiar ground for anyone who has seen the 1990 film or any story about making it in America as an immigrant. You start small with an impossible belief in the opportunities this country can provide, and then, with perseverance and a little luck, you get your own slice of the American dream. You prove to the world that your culture is worth celebrating. This series hews very closely to these familiar beats, so much so that it's less a story about Selena and more one about her father Abraham. The show makes clear that it's Abraham's dashed dreams of having a band of his own that fuels his support of his daughter's career, his controlling attitude that keeps the band focused but also suffocates his children. His pride and ambition are the center of most of the show's conflicts. Selena, for the most part, is just along for the ride. In later episodes, as her star rises, she bemoans the lack of a normal life as her touring keeps her from socializing with friends and dating boys. In fact, she gains the most agency when, late in the clutch of episodes, she decides to date someone against her father's wishes. And we all know who that is, okay? So that's really the gist of what he's saying. And he further on continues to go, the result is a show that feels cheap. The feeling is magnified by a moment in the series' 9th episode when Suzette makes an innocuous seeming phone call to a fan to see if she's willing to run the fan club. So this Arthur is really against the show altogether, and he's basically saying, because if you did watch the film, Selena's dad apparently was known for really being strict, really holding up traditional family values and keeping the band together. No distractions whatsoever, especially for Selena. Selena did not have a normal childhood. It was always work, 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 work. And, I mean, I know she probably was thankful for that because it really got to where she was. But, of course, unfortunately, that tragic death happened. And so the author is basically trying to point out from a different perspective that the show kind of focuses more on Abraham and like what he wanted for his kids and what he wanted for his life, and he didn't really get to achieve that. I believe Abraham also, like, in real life, he also had like his own like music thing going back in Mexico as well, and it was very hard and difficult for him. So that's where they kind of dabble in, you know, when it comes to being an immigrant and coming to America and then trying to make it there. But Selena, she was the one that was finally able to break that barrier because she could speak Spanish and she could speak English, and she was able to sing music in Spanish and English. So she was able to break that barrier where people loved her and loved what she did and loved how she performed and loved how she entertained and just her being a general kind and good person. So that's really why the Arthur, I think he feels like Selena is just not, it's just not for her. It's just, the show's just not for her. But hey, her family disagrees, right? So what can we do? We just have to watch it for ourselves and find out. So again, you can watch it on Netflix, all 9 episodes, first season. It came out December 4th. Go ahead. It's free. I mean, as long as you have Netflix, of course, to watch it. But coming up after the break, we're going to get into a very old classic black sitcom, and it's called The Bernie Mac Show. Rest in peace, Bernie Mac. So don't go anywhere. Coming up after the break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are halfway through the show, and as I stated before, you can watch the Selena series right now on Netflix. It is streaming, all 9 episodes. And now I want to get into very successful, huge, phenomenal, amazing black comedian that we all know and love, and his name was Bernie Mac. Yes, enough said. Now, Bernie Mac, of course, years ago had his own show that was very, I feel like, underestimated and underrated. It has 5 seasons in total, and well, usually it will actually come on Hulu as long as you have like the premium subscription, or Philo. I always talk about Philo on my show, guys. That is another app where you can watch a lot of these shows or movies. However, finally Amazon Prime is putting Bernie Mac on there. Yes, I know, I'm excited. And actually, we get to watch it on December 8th. Now, here's the reason why. So, for those of you that probably never watched the show before, if you like shows like The Office, okay, comedic shows, I feel like actually make some type of success is when they break that fourth wall, okay? So, in other words, when they're directly looking into the camera, they're saying what they have to say. It could be like something off script, but technically part of the script because they were meant to do that, or sometimes it will be like off guard thing, or it's literally them talking about the situation of what is going on in the episode directly to us. And Bernie Mac, you know, the way his short show would like end or start off is literally him saying, "Come on, America, I can't do this." You know, it was just funny. It was bright. It was entertaining. You know, he was serious about it too, because he would literally look in the camera's eyes and literally was speaking directly to us. Like the intensity was there. And if someone said something rude, if someone said something that he thought was stupid and didn't have any common sense, like one of his nieces or nephew, because he kind of took them in, and he really didn't know much about parenting with his wife, Wanda. It is I literally grew up on this show, so I'm starting to remember like a lot of different episodes. Like my favorite character, of course, was Vanessa, and it was literally like real like black people issues that they had on the show, but even just general issues about parenting versus, you know, childhood. But the intensity that he had with his eyes and the camera, like you felt his pain, like you felt what he was going through. He couldn't take it a lot of times, like raising those kids, and I feel like that's what made Bernie Mac so special and what made the show so special. And he's been an inspiration, of course, to many other comedians, many black people in general, many just people in general, just because of who he was. And he is dominated in film, he's dominated in TV. I mean, he even used to come on episodes of Moesha and some other shows as well, you know, back in the day. That was really like it. I mean, those shows are still it, and as you can see lately, Netflix has also been adapting them. But I'm really glad to hear that Bernie Mac show is actually going to be Amazon Prime. So thank you, Amazon Prime. Okay. And again, you know, rest in peace to Bernie Mac. Seriously, man, like that's a legend that unfortunately a lot of us will never get to meet. And I honestly think it was like one of the greatest shows of all time. It literally was. It literally was. Like breaking that fourth wall, I feel like it's hard to do. You really have to be funny in order to successfully accomplish that. You know, connecting with your audience, that's the whole point of acting. That's the whole point of being a comedian. If you can't connect to your audience, if you cannot connect to anything in entertainment, I don't know why you're entertaining. I don't know if you don't have fun doing it. And you can tell Bernie Mac had fun doing it. He took his job very seriously. And I feel like that inspires a lot of us. And I feel like that's why this show was very underrated. And it used to be on Fox. And a lot of people, of course, don't even remember that this show even existed. And that's the sad part. So I'm really glad Amazon Prime is just taking it on. And hopefully, if you've never seen the show before, that you actually give it a chance and you actually watch it and actually realize that it's pretty funny. I'm actually going to go and rewatch it very soon. Okay, but a little bit about the show and the cast. So, again, it's an American sitcom television series created by Larry Wilmore, and it aired on Fox for 5 seasons from November 14, 2001 to April 14, 2006. The series featured Bernie Mac and his wife Wanda raising his sister's 3 kids, Jordan, Vanessa, and Brianna, and it's a total of 104 episodes. Of course, executive producers were Larry Wilmore, Bernie Mac, Warren Hutcherson, Steve Tompkins, Pete Aronson, and Michael Borko. And the camera setup was interesting because I know like a lot of TV shows and movies, you know, do this even more now, but it was single camera. You know, it wasn't really much of everything was pretty much single camera. And other production companies that were involved is Wilmore Films and Regency Television. So some of the characters, so Bernie Mac, he played Bernie on the show. Wanda, in other words, he called her baby all the time. She was played by Kalia Smith. Then we had Jordan, that was played by Jeremy Suarez. Then we had Brianna. She was always known as Baby Girl. Again, if you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. That was played by Dee Dee Davis. And then we have Vanessa. Another word for her is Nessa. And that was played by Camille Winbush. Would have loved to see Bernie Mac, like the reaction that he had. And unfortunately, I believe he passed away back in 2008. So it was literally 2 years, you know, after the show was already canceled and didn't continue. He actually died because, I'm trying to remember, he actually died from pneumonia. I know it was complications of pneumonia and sarcoidosis. So he actually was diagnosed with sarcoidosis from 1983. So he actually lived with it for like over 20 years. So, of course, that contributed to his death, unfortunately. So, it's sarcoidosis, okay? Honestly, a disease I never heard of, but it's crazy because that was also the year that Barack Obama became president. Yeah, he died August 9th, 2008. So, rest in peace again to Bernie Mac, a legend, an icon, an enthusiast. Again, he was a comedian, he was a voice actor, and he was a film actor. So, and it seems like more and more streaming services are actually giving recognition to a lot of black sitcoms, a lot of artists, but it sucks when you have to do that when the person or that human already passed away. You know, I feel like that's something that needs to be addressed, because why not celebrate them while they're already living? Why wait till years later when they already passed away, where the world basically has forgotten about them. I mean, of course, not everyone. There are those of them who actually probably cared for him, like his family, his wife, or just real true fans, his friends. We always wait to this artist that has given so much to the world to actually recognize them, but you don't recognize them when they're alive. And I just don't understand that. I never did. I mean, look at so many people that you can even go down the list and mention about that. But yeah, so again, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but again, you can watch Bernie Mac on starting December, and it is on Amazon Prime. And again, if you like shows like The Office, if you like basically any comedic shows that always breaks that fourth wall, and if you like that type of comedy, then Bernie Mac is the show for you. I feel like he was one of the first to actually do that, because again, the show started back in like 2001, so, and then it didn't end until 2006. So yeah, rest in peace, Bernie Mac. It's unfortunate. But coming up after the break, everyone, we're going to get into our final segment for tonight, and it is called Godmother. It is actually a new film on Disney Plus. Of course, I had to end it with Disney, y'all. And I feel like Disney deserves a win here, especially with the trying year that they had for 2020. So don't go anywhere, coming up after the break.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back from the break, everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. So, as I stated before, you can watch Bernie Mac on Amazon Prime, and again, it will be coming out soon. Now, I would like to get into Disney Plus's new film, and it's called Godmother. It's a very interesting film. I watched the trailer a few days ago, and again, if you're a fan of Disney, if you love Cinderella, and if you love Fairy Godmother, then this is a show for you. But here's the twist. It's not a typical Cinderella, type of show where it's like, okay, bippity boppity boo. No. The godmother herself needs to get her life together, as well as the person that she's trying to be a godmother for. That's literally the gist of it. And it's grown women we're talking about. So this is not a little girl that she's trying to help, or a teenage girl like maybe Cinderella was, okay? This is a grown woman who basically had a lot of, unlucky times in life. Things didn't always go her way, and especially losing that, what she thought would have been like the love of her life, right? And this godmother basically comes in and thinks she knows everything, but she's actually a godmother in training. And she has to learn that things are not always about fantasy. Things are not always about magic. And things don't always come true. Or at least right away, right? We never want to give up hope. That's like the main thing. But in a way, it's more like she wanted to help her out and tell people that there's nothing wrong with still believing in magic. There's nothing wrong with still believing in fairies. There's nothing wrong with still believing in godmothers and just things like that, of that nature. But at the same time, she's also learning herself, like, there's a big difference with Fantasyland and reality. And that's why I think this film, even if you're not into Disney, if you're not into fairy tales, that it could be a good life lesson, right? Because we can look at the example of both of them and see things from two different perspectives. And it's a little funny too, because again, I watched the trailer and it's has a little comedic style to it, so I can't wait for it to come out. The one thing I don't like about Disney Plus sometimes is they don't give you the dates at least like a month ahead. It's kind of like closer to the time, and maybe like 2 weeks before. But of course, if you do like a lot of deep diving research, you'll actually find out the dates. But a little bit about the movie. So Godmother is a 2020 American fantasy comedy film directed by Sherry Maguire, and it was actually written by Cary Grant and Melissa Stack from a story of Grandland. And the film stars are Jillian Bell in the lead role alongside Isla Fisher. It was actually produced by Walt Disney Pictures and Secret Machine Entertainment. The film actually debuted on Disney Plus on December 4th, so there's the date. So you can go ahead and watch that now, because it's like 2 days later now. Or 3, whatever day it is that you're listening to this. So, it's starring Isla Fisher and Jillian Bell. The music is by Rachel Portman. The cinematography is by Christopher Noor. It was edited by Gary Dolliner, and the production company is Walt Disney, as I stated before, in Secret Machine Entertainment. So the running time in total for this movie is 113 minutes, so way less time than the Wonder Woman movie. And the plot is basically Eleanor is a new student at the Fairy Godmother University at Motherland, where no one wants to go anymore and is going to be shut down because of their old ways, which stick to the traditional happily ever after form of a ball gown and a Prince Charming. They will be converted into a tooth fairy school. So how corny is that, right? But to save Motherland and prove that she can be a good godmother, she searches for an assignment and finds a letter from a 10-year-old Mackenzie Walsh, who is trying to find her happily ever after. Okay, a little bit too late, right? Because as I stated before, that this little girl's not a little girl no more. So then it goes on to say that she goes to Boston, Massachusetts, so of course the city, in search of Mackenzie, and she tries to discover her, but Mackenzie is now a 40-year-old who's a single mother, and she's trying to cope with the stress of work and raising her children. And ever since she lost her husband in a car accident, she's scared to take risks and instills the same fear in her children. Her oldest daughter is a very talented musician and used to enjoy playing music, and her father, but since his death, she's unable to perform, and, to top it off, her mother discourages her to perform on stage, which really sucks. Then it goes on to say Eleanor helps this family come to terms with their loss and find happiness in each other and brings happiness back in their life. In the process, though, she learns that her traditional happily ever after formula is flawed, and it's important just to be happy in the moment, whether it stays forever or not. She ends up saving Motherland when she saves the family, impressing the headmistress, and then this gets her to agree that godmothers need to change their ways in accordance with current times. And then as a result, Motherland's revived and becomes quite popular among fairies, and Eleanor is seen leading this initiative. So that's the basic synopsis for this film. And again, it's out now, so you could go ahead and watch that if you need something to watch for this weekend. And then also, too, I love the fact that they released it in December, so it's a perfect holiday movie because it's full of magic, full of joy, full of fun, and that's what we want, especially for this Christmas and for this New Year's. But this is another review that I actually read, and it's from the New York Times, and it's titled Godmother Review, Revising the Fairy Tale Formula. And this is kind of where I was going earlier in the episode, like this is not your typical fairy tale. And an experienced fairy godmother tries to make over a Bostonian single mom in this modernized fairy tale. So it reads, our fairy godmother is obsolete. Ask anyone. Princes on steeds rarely come around anymore, and all our ball gowns are just sitting in the closet. But in Godmothered and anodyne new comedy, even the most modern and jaded women find use for a fairy's magic touch. So again, it's now streaming on Disney Plus. The film recalls the studio's once upon a time hit Enchanted, although here the conceit loses much of its charm. The story follows an eager fairy godmother in training, Eleanor, who shirks her studies in the fantasy world of Motherland to pursue an assignment on Earth. Transporting herself into a wintry Boston, Eleanor locates her Cinderella, the wearied single mother Mackenzie, who works at a local news station. Many of the movie's jokes comes from Eleanor's clash with modernity. She marvels at cars, offers to dig a moat around Mackenzie's home, and confuses an iPad with an eye patch. The endless naivete starts to grate halfway through, as does the zealous godmother's fixation on her Bostonian princess finding true love. The film's idea is to re-examine and revise the fairy tale formula, and in some ways it succeeds. The story sends up cliches like the animal sidekick. Instead of a woodland creature, Eleanor recruits an inept raccoon and makes the obvious case that living happily is a day-to-day struggle. But for an updated princess story, Godmother, directed by Sherry Maguire, is fairly conventional. Mackenzie's love interest is a handsome white man with the surname Prince, who at one point appears in colonial garb. And while beauty is found to come from within, the movie still shows Mackenzie's growth by granting her the chance to live prettily ever after with a chic coat and a blowout. Is the film trapped in Disney orthodoxy? If the shoe fits. So that was actually written by Natalia Winkleman for the New York Times. So it's a very interesting perspective on both sides of the movie. And from Digital Trends, they actually think that this film, it definitely goes on to say that, you know, not everyone will think the same way as the article I was talking about before and that author. But in my opinion, I feel like the trailer was a bit cheesy. I feel like, but it is perfect to get you into that Christmas feeling. I do wish there was more diversity, however, in the film. It's pretty much an all-white cast. Not that there's anything wrong with that at all, you know, but I really do wish there was more diversity. I mean, it's 2020, come on. However, I still have to actually watch the film to actually appreciate it for, you know, what they were trying to achieve. And, you know, just see where it goes. You can't judge something, of course, before you try it, right? So that's pretty much with everything. But yeah, overall, I feel like they also were trying to do another film where it was just focused on a live action of Cinderella's Godmother, which is supposed to be just called The Godmother. There's still like rumors flying around that because it still hasn't been confirmed. So I just hope people are not getting confused with Godmothered and then The Godmother, because The Godmother, as we all know, is Cinderella's godmother. And then Godmothered is a completely different, like, wannabe spin-off type of thing of, like, kind of way the way Godmother and Cinderella story goes, but they're, you know, getting the same ideas, the same content, but a little twist. So it is very interesting. I know everyone wishes they had a godmother. I know I wish I did. Especially now, okay? So this movie is perfect for the times. But anyway, thank you so much, guys. And again, like I said, it's out right now. It is streaming. You can watch it. It debuted on December 4th. So if you need something to watch, you can watch that. You can watch the Bertie Mac show on December 8th. You can watch the Selena series right now, which came out on December 4th. And you'll still have to wait till December 25th, unfortunately, to watch Wonder Woman. But overall, all four of them are pretty good things to watch and keep you entertained for this holiday season coming up. So, yeah. I hope you all enjoyed the episode today. Thank you so much for listening to the GSMC television podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you can, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts podcast network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts podcast network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.